It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear, no fear, no fear here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, from the beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com. Now, my guest is David MacMichael. Now, I'm going to have him, help me introduce him because, dang, here's a guy that's been around. You served in World War II, didn't you?
Well, at the very end, and then went to Korea in the 50s and fought there and was disabled by Chinese artillery, and then continued on in the Marine Corps in a number of capacities for another half dozen years, and resigned my regular commission in 1959 over some disagreements on the way things were going in the USMC.
Well, then you went on to get your PhD in history.
That's
you're
right.
associate professor, Dominican College, San Rafael, California. You did then you're senior social scientist, Stanford Research Institute.
Yep.
You're assigned to U.S. mission in Bangkok, Thailand. You've been a private consultant, and then you had a stint working with the CIA. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, in the mid-'70s, I had left Stanford Research Institute and was in that dignified form of unemployment called private consulting. And I happened to be working on a contract in Washington. I was approached by former colleagues from Bangkok who informed me that a new office had just been opened at the National Intelligence Council, where they wanted to bring in people from outside who they figured were smart and could take a new look at things and form a team to prepare the national intelligence estimates, which are the supposedly the premier product of the CIA. It involves all of the agencies that make up the so-called intelligence community, and largely because of my background academically and elsewhere, I was put in charge of preparing estimates for the Western Hemisphere, which, in fact, put me directly in the line of, because I came on board the same day Bill Casey did, by the way, but that put me in having to review the materials coming in on that were being used to rationalize the Contra War in Nicaragua. And since I couldn't find any of the evidence which was being cited by the Reagan administration to rationalize our war on that country, I departed in 1983 and went down to Nicaragua, looked around a lot by myself, and as an immediate consequence, in fact, I was asked to testify for Nicaragua at the World Court in 1985 in the case of Nicaragua versus the United States, in which, unhappily, our country was found guilty of violating all sorts of international laws, and then helped organize a group of like-minded former intelligence officers, and as the Association of National Security Alumni, and for some years published what I considered a pretty good magazine called Unclassified, which was devoted to opposing the use of so-called covert military operations as a means of conducting U.S. foreign policy.
So you're not on the Christmas list of the military-industrial complex?
No longer.
Probably
no
not.
Longer.
Probably
Matter
not.
of fact, I was intrigued to see an old sometime colleague's name pop up in the news the other day, which is Dewey Claridge, who was one of the guys on the ground conducting the Contra War. We had had a couple of conversations 30-odd years ago. But I'm no longer on their Christmas list.
Okay, well let me in the bio here. One of the things that came up was that you commanded the facility where Manning is being held. Is that true, or am I got that right?
No, basically it's right. My last, while I was waiting for my resignation to go through, I had been commanding the Marine detachment on the USS Galveston when I decided I would do other things, and so I was transferred to Quantico and was made the headquarters company commander there, and I held that position for, I guess, 5 or 6 months before my papers went through and I left. But
well, go ahead and let's get to Bradley Manning, and because I want to understand what it is that has got your attention and that you can add to this discussion, because it's interesting in that we're looking at one of the points that was brought up is that he's an Army PFC. Mm-hmm. And he's at a Marine base. Is that unusual, or
it is to me? But I can explain why I think he is there. The Quantico Marine Base is also the main training center for the FBI, and it's rather obvious, and I think accepted by most people, that one of the reasons that Manning, who was first charged back in July of 2010, actually in May of 2010, has been kept in confinement so long, is that the Justice Department has been trying very hard to build a case which they can bring Julian Assange, the director of WikiLeaks, into the United States and find some way to try him for conspiring. I think that was the case they wanted to make, that he had conspired to cause Bradley Manning to violate various portions of the Uniform Code of Military Justice and Laws, and that would be the hook on which they try to try Julian Assange. But as you know, it was revealed just 2 days ago that the Justice Department had given up on this. They could not come up with conclusive evidence that there had been such a contact.
All right, so they're looking for a conspiracy charge. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is they're trying to? It's always conspiracy or a RICO or something. It's always, they make up stuff, as they go along. But so if they can't find that connection, then they're just left with what? I mean, we have they
in the case? Well, first of all, in the case of Bradley Manning, what you are left with is a series of charges under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. First is Article 92, which is has to do with activities which may injure the effectiveness of the armed services, and he's under Article 134, which is also the most general article, which has to do with any and all activities that
it's their kitchen sink thing, whatever they can
lack
just
of order or discipline in the armed services.
Well, what's the maximum charge or sentence or possible punishment?
Okay,
that he's
the
looking
possible punishment on all of these charges, as I understand from the website for military justice, which I went through carefully on this, is he could be sentenced to a maximum of 52 years. This is according to his attorney, David Coombs.
52 years. Well, when we come back, I want to talk. The reason I wanted to talk to David MacMichael is that he's been around a long time, and he's gone through these kinds of things and how they affect policy and how lies are told and then lies are uncovered later, and what kind of impact that has on policy and what we can expect in the future. You know, this is going to be an interesting conversation. You guys stay right there. We'll be right back.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. Readers of freedomsphoenix.com are constantly provided the information that detail the real news between the lines of propaganda about government policies and the true relationship we all have with coercive governments. Learn the true condition of our economy, innovations and technological breakthroughs in energy, health, computer science, and space travel. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media, the media that is so last century. Corporate media has evolved into nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but we now have a fantastic alternative. FreedomsPhoenix.com provides constant news updates on the issues that affect our lives in the most important ways. Our liberty and our property are under constant attack, and FreedomsPhoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda while encouraging the participation of our readers. Join us at FreedomsPhoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. FreedomsPhoenix.com, where the revolution between the ears has already matured.